Okay, good morning, or I'm sorry, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Colorado Geographic Naming Advisory Board to discuss recommendations regarding Secretarial Order 3404. And with that, we will take a roll call here. Dr. Way is excused absence. Representative Will.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Representative Benavides.
I'm here.
Good to see you. Representative Exum on. Don't see Representative Exum. Councilwoman Joseph.
Present. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Commissioner Chimino.
Presence here.
Good afternoon. Director Redhorse.
Present. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Director Limerick.
I'm
He was going to try and call in Director Barry.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Benitez.
Present.
Good to
Present.
see you. All right. Miss Nelson.
Set in the 19th century, based on the novels by Julia
Director Gonzalez.
all about romance.
I'm here. Present.
Hello, good to see you. Tim Mock is here, and Director Garcia.
Yes, present. Thank you.
Good to see you. And Director Wolf has an excused absence. So with that, we have a quorum. Okay, on to agenda item number 3 here, Secretarial Order 3404. We had sought out comments regarding replacement names for Secretarial Order 3404, which is declaring squaw a derogatory term and implementing procedures to remove the term from federal usage. The federal task force that was convened to address this matter identified roughly 28 geographic locations to be considered, and included up to 5 candidate names of surrounding geographic features that were identified in a GIS exercise, and listed those in that spreadsheet. And then off of our website, we opened up a portal for organizations and members of the public to submit recommendations. We received a healthy batch of recommendations here. With that, board, here's how I'd like to proceed. Is that we'll proceed in order of that federal task force and work through those recommendations and see if we can make some additional recommendations or would honor any of those. Also, we'll consider that federal task force list. There were 5 features that did not receive any comment. During this, as we consider each item, we will, before we take a motion, we will seek public comment on each item. Does that sound okay with everybody? Thumbs up, or if you have another recommendation or question, let me know. Okay, got some thumbs up, and for the public there, we've got obviously the chat going as usual. We appreciate everybody taking time this Sunday to join us here for this special session. We did have to put it on a Sunday so that it was a time that a majority of our board could meet, and also allow us the time essentially to make the recommendation to the governor for his consideration in time to meet the conclusion or the deadline for the federal task force at the end of the month. So with that, we will go ahead and start with Squaw Mountain in Routt County. This is a summit. The federal task force had identified Cantling Creek, Little Snake River, Battle Creek, Road Gulch, and Spring Gulch. We received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 recommendations. Two of those recommendations, one was, I'm sorry, we received, if you add them all up, there were two recommendations that essentially received the same one. That was to replace the name with Petite Teton and Eli Mountain, although there was some communication regarding Eli Mountain that on one of those submit by a member of the Eli family that they actually, their preference would be Hideout Mountain as I read this or read their comments. Board, do we have any questions or suggestions in regards to any of these proposed names for this geographic feature?
Can I ask a quick question on
Yeah.
this spreadsheet? Because it's hard going back and forth between the two for me. Which ones of those for the first ones were submitted by any of the tribal nations?
We did not, none of those that I can tell in terms of were submitted by tribal nations or tribal governments on this one. We did have a conversation, or Johnny did reach out to Miss Runyon, and you know that tribal governments have a special consultation process through this. That will extend to the end for them. They can get their recommendations in later than we're able to review these. I think Representative Benavides, you probably bring up a good point. I think this is how do we want to characterize our recommendations? And I think what we're, if I understand some of the past conversations of this body, that we would actually honor those tribal recommendations, and that our recommendation as part of this would express that any tribal recommendations coming in, we would actually give priority to those and express it as such in terms of that. And then whereas there are no tribal recommendations, we can make the following recommendations based on some of the public feedback that we've received. How does that sound?
That sounds good, but I guess I'm looking, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the spreadsheet that has candidates 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
And on the top line, the first one, there's 10 different proposals, it looks like, from Cantling Creek all the way to the end. The last one is Antelope Spring. And I'm just wondering, those, some of them I think could probably be rolled out, because you have a gulch, a creek, a spring, a bluff, and a river. So what, should we be ruling some of those out? And
Yeah.
I just want a little bit more on these names that we're talking about, and then where they came from, because if there isn't any from a tribal nation or group that can establish why it should be, then I guess my role is then maybe go to the local government. There was some that had county commissioners. So I just wanted a little background on those 10 names.
Yeah, so and I think if you're looking at the tab that says replacement names, there's actually 5 names on the tab, and there's a tab down below that says USGS proposed replacements on the spreadsheet.
Oh, so it's just under number 2 for the first one,
Yes.
when you take that across, not the
Yeah.
10. So just
And then
because
if you,
they're
Yeah,
together without a line in between. That's why I was thinking they were all the same.
okay, and then if on your tab down there at the bottom, there's also the CGNAB process recommendations. If you click that, that'll give you the information that was submit.
Yeah, I
via
read
our
that.
website. Okay, so here's what the federal task force in that tab, those recommendations just come from them drawing a 5-mile radius and identifying local nearby geographic features. And they took the top 5, pinged off of that essentially, and put that into their database. Now, in conversations here, my understanding is that, let's take for Squaw Mountain in Rount County, candidate 1 is Cantling Creek. if that were to be accepted or adopted by the federal task force, they would drop the creek, so it would be Cantling Mountain. And so they would do that for any of those geographic features across the top there.
So, and I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize, but I just want to make sure what we're doing. So then, and I did read that, but I didn't block it out because it had all of the comments. You're saying there was no community comments for the first one. So we either have those 5 or something we come up with to choose from.
Yes, so we have, there was no submission by Routt County commissioners. So what we have are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 recommendations that came in from the public. And rather than the federal task force names, what was submitted was Petite Tetons, Tahoe Mountain, to make it an unnamed peak, Indian Woman, Cantling Butte, Eli Peak or Moosehead, Eli Mountain, St. Louis Mountain or Hideout Mountain, and then Mule Deer Mountain or Lupine Mountain.
Okay, and I see where you're getting those, since the block between the black lines on the
Yes,
other tab.
exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
So I think in some of these, generally, I think I'd rather go to the public feedback that we've received rather than just sort of the radius around this. Now, remember, board, that even after this process, communities, members of the public can still submit renaming recommendations or proposals for any of these at the conclusion of this entire process. So that would then come through us through the regular USBGN process. So I think looking at the public, what we received from the public through our process, are there any of those geographic names that speak to members of the board here?
I like Cantling because, again, it's the mountains in the Cantling Creek drainage, so it has a relationship to the some existing features.
Great, thank you, Director Barry. Board members, any thoughts on that?
I concur with that last comment. This is Luis.
Thank you, Mr. Benitez. Why don't I open this up for public comment to see if we have any public comment regarding this matter here. So with that, if there's anybody here to speak on Squaw Mountain located in Routt County, please raise your digital hand. If you can't, go ahead and speak up, and we will try and take those. Is there anybody here?
Yes,
Mr. O'Toole, how are you?
I'm good today, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think much of my family is here, and we are the owners of most of the private land on the mountain. As you look south, it's the dominant feature from our ranch. This year, we celebrated our 140th year at the base of this mountain. Cantling Creek, for example, is an ephemeral stream that runs down one side, but the mountain is actually in the Little Snake River drainage. The Little Snake River is really interesting. It crosses the state line 32 times. So our valley is part Colorado and part Wyoming. And we came up with the idea of the Petite Teton because the Little Snake is what dominates the mountain and the geographical area. The Grand Tetons obviously were in the Big Snake. We thought the Petite Teton would be sort of a parallel because the Little Snake, Big Snake, Grand Teton, Petite Teton. And the other things that I think are important geologically, this is a really interesting valley. It's volcanic. And it was interesting. There was an article, there's been actually several articles about this recommendation. out of a couple different newspapers. One's our local paper will have an article this week. But when you look at the history of the area, one of the multiple tribes that use that were the Sioux. And so Teton is one of the Sioux tribal names, the Minikanju, the Brule. Teton is one of the Sioux tribal names. So we thought that would be appropriate. So it has several different parts to it, but from our family's perspective, it's a magnificent mountain that when you look at it from to the south, it's the first thing we see every day, last thing we see every evening. And we think that this is a name that represents a lot of both historical and geographical pieces that, I know that there's some people that have already sent in recommendations, but we think that it represents, something unique and something that we're going to live with the rest of our lives. So one of the other, I think, interesting things, those of you that know a little bit about sage grouse and how important sage grouse is to the overall community in our part of the world, the largest lek, that's where the sage grouse dance in Colorado, is right on that mountain. So it has a lot of really positive pieces to it, a lot of wildlife. It's obviously a major part of our grazing operations, springs, things that we've taken care of for really more than a century. Our grandchildren are the sixth generation there. So I guess from our perspective, this is a recommendation that comes from the family that uses it and, is right next to it. So thank you for your time and opportunity to visit with you.
Great, thank you, Mr. O'Toole. And let me go to, let me see here. Is there any other questions here? Sharon, I see your hand raised. Or I'm sorry, let me go to Director Garcia if you have a question for the commenter.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Mr. O'Toole. My name is Rick Garcia. I'm the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Local Affairs and a member of this advisory board. I'm curious, you referenced a few times the view from your ranch. I'm curious if there's other surface roads or off-road access that the public would have access to that would also view the same visual that you've described a couple times.
Yeah, 129 in Colorado goes right in front of it. I can't tell you how many artists stop there in the summertime and draw or take pictures of it. But 129 is the road that goes from Steamboat north. It's 55 miles north of Steamboat Springs. And it's that county road that takes you right in front of it. And you see, it really is a magnificent mountain. I don't know if you have any pictures, but it's magnificent any of the seasons of the year. And there's just, a lot of people that stop. And as I said, artists set up their canvases and paint it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. O'Toole.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you. My question, Mr. O'Toole, is you wouldn't know this, got another comment about Petite Tetons, that it was offending Native American women and all women. And I, other than the relationship to the other Tetons in Wyoming, I don't know, because we got comments from other members of your family, from Sharon Salisbury O'Toole and somebody else, that was was a recognition of a positive aspect of Native women. And then the other comment from the head of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, that it wasn't, that it was derogatory. So do you know anything about that?
I don't. Who would be that person from the Game and Fish?
I don't know really, because it's not listed.
It looks like it was somebody by the name of Kim Olson, essentially. And then if you look at, I went on to Wikipedia here a little bit earlier, and when you Google Tetons, basically what it says is the history of the name here. It is in terms of it means in French, large teat or large nipple. And it was either by French Canadian or the Iroquois members of an expedition. Unsubstantiated claims exist that the mountain was named after Teton Sioux tribe of the Native Americans, even though this tribe lived about 200 miles away in the Dakotas, not in Wyoming. And then it further says, moreover, in terms of the etymology studies, the Teton Sioux tribe's name is stated as being not related to the Grand Teton. And I know that we're not talking about necessarily the Grand Tetons, but somewhat related. So let me keep it open here to you, Ms. Benavides, if you had any follow-up.
No, I just haven't lowered my hand. Sorry. I appreciate you looking that up and providing that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Toole, did you want to respond to that? Or I've also got Mr. Benitez with another question as well, or comment.
Well, I guess part of, we put a lot of thought into this because it's the dominant feature of where we live. We see it every day. My children designed some T-shirts that have sold a lot of T-shirts because it just is it's a beautiful valley. It's a beautiful mountain. And we thought it would represent a lot of things. We think the comparison with the Grand Teton, Big Snake, Petite Teton, Little Snake was kind of humorous. But, you're picking something that we'll live with for the rest of our lives. And we wanted to have an input to that. I don't have any of the other piece that doesn't seem to be at all reasonable. We've never heard that really from anybody, from ourselves. And as I said, the Casper Star had a really nice article about it. The Little Snake River papers coming out this week with a story about the name, because we're trying to incorporate something that's both personal and historical into this discussion. And really, I have the only negative I've heard is people would say, let's not change the mountain at all. That's not going to happen. So we put a lot of time and effort into coming up with something that we thought was both historical, was something that had a little humor to it, and, represented a long-term vision that we have because we're the ones that live there and actually own most of it.
Okay, great. Mr. Benitez.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. O'Toole, and thanks, Director Mark. The one comment I had was just that there is a little bit of precedent with the Petite Grippon in Rocky Mountain National Park. So we've got another Petite in Colorado. So there is just a little bit of precedent there for having a big and a little mountain. My question would be, since, as you said, the Little Snake crosses the border 13 times.
32 times.
32. Well, that's even
Yes,
better.
sir.
So, my comment would be, is the Wyoming Naming Commission going to take issue with having a Petite Teton out there? There's a couple of petites in the Teton Mountain Range as well. So there is precedent for calling things, little this or little that. So just a little bit of level setting.
Right. The mountain, though, is totally in Colorado.
Okay. Is there any additional public comment regarding this matter? Sharon, how are you?
Good. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Oh, good. Excuse me. I'd like to give some background on the mountain, which actually has a strong association with Native women. Our valley, the Little Snake River Valley, was not home to any one tribe, but it was hunting grounds for about 5 tribes. And in the 1840s, there was a group of trappers in here on Battle Creek. So that, so a lot of those names that you mentioned already are place names, but anyway, they were trapping, and then they had their wives with them and their children, and their wives were Shoshone. And then a group of, I think they were mostly Sioux and Arapaho, came over kind of from the Laramie Plains, and they were trying to steal horses. They were stealing horses back and forth somehow. And then I'm sure they didn't want them in their trapping either, but main object of the battle was to steal horses. And they had about a 1.5 day long battle, which is where Battle Creek and Battle Mountain and Battle Pass and all those place names get their place name. And the women and children went up and sheltered on the side of what's now called Squaw Mountain. So when I was growing up, I always heard that was why, but you know, I too think that the name is offensive and should be changed. So, you know, we really are hoping, and other members of our community too, really like the name Petite Teton. But what the mountain did was shelter the women and children.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions or comments for Sharon? Okay, thank you. Is there any additional public comment regarding this matter? If you could raise your digital hand or kind of wave a little bit here if you're interested.
Actually, I'd like to add something. As far as Petite Tetons go, I mean, that was not the first thing that came to my mind. You know, it was, apparently it has for some, but certainly that's, you know, we're just trying to have fun and come up with a name that would be meaningful. But certainly nothing sexist came to my mind when we were discussing it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sharon. Any additional public comment? Ms. Hoover, good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. When I went to the Grand Tetons the first time, about in 2012, I definitely knew it meant grand tits. So for people that don't know it means that, I guess I'm a little confused.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment on this matter. Board members, we've got Cantaloupe Creek suggested so far by Mr. Benitez. I'm sorry, I think that was by Miss Berry, and Mr. Benitez has expressed some support there. Any other feedback regarding this matter?
Could I ask a quick question? I'm sorry, I'm on a different computer, so I'm trying to find out where to raise my hand. I can't find it all the time. Anyway, one of the proposals is Battle Creek, and one of the suggestions or the comments alluded to that there was a battle between the Lakotas on that area, and that was why Battle Creek and other places were named that. Do we know anything about that battle?
We do not. Representative, is that in the additional comments section or under the?
Yeah, it was in the one tab on the process recommendations, and it was the second one that after the horse culture and something about.
There was one, it was said Hideout Mountain because of the battle there, and the suggestion was Hideout Mountain. And it says here that they like that name because it is where women and children hid when there was a major battle between the trappers and Native Americans in the area. We would like to have that storyline stay intact in the name so that we can, so the story can continue to be passed on to future generations, is I think what I've seen there.
Yeah, no, I was looking in the second box where it says they were a horse culture and the famous battle fought there in 1841, which led to the name Squaw Mountain. That's the battle I was talking about.
Okay.
If we knew any more about that.
No, we do not know any more about that. Or at least I do not. Does anybody know any more about that? Sharon, maybe you can help us out there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do know more about that. Let's see here. The battle was August 21st, 1841, and the trappers and their wives and children were camped on Battle Creek. There was a large, well, the number is disputed, but maybe as many as 100 warriors came on horseback from over on the Laramie Plains. So they were from the eastern slope to drive them away and steal their horses. Although I think maybe the trappers had stolen some of their horses earlier. There's been a lot written about this. And so, thinking about it, I've tried to put myself in the mind of those women while the battle was going on. And I'm sure that they weren't just kind of sitting up there hiding behind the aspen trees. I imagine that they were helping with reloading. They were probably bringing food, they're trying to protect their children. And in the end, kind of nobody won. A lot of the attacking natives were killed. There were, I think, 30 trappers or so there, and 3 or 4 of them were killed. Jim Baker famously said that the leader of the trappers, Henry Frabe, was the ugliest dead man he'd ever seen, and he had seen a great many. So anyway, actually, if you want to know more about it, there's a great book called Where the Old West Stayed Young about this whole region. But and I'm a poet too, and I've actually written a couple of poems about the name and about the changing of the name. And I certainly prefer shelter over hideout, although of course we still, really like the name Petite Tetons. But that's what the mountain did, is it sheltered women and children during the battle, and they were mostly Shoshone.
Great, thank you. Representative Benavides.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And when you talked about it, I pulled it up, and there's a Wikipedia on Jim Baker. And I don't know a lot about him, but it is as you described, that there was that battle on August 21st of 1841, and that he went to live in Wyoming, and he was married to 3 Native American wives and 14 children. But what was also interesting is that it said there was also his portrait is in a stained glass window at the Colorado State Capitol building. And there was a statute in Westminster, Colorado. So, trying to tie it there. And I don't know enough to say now we should name it after him either, but I'll just point it out. I don't want to make a proposal.
No, great, thank you. We do actually, I see some hands raised.
This is Pat. One more time.
Yeah, briefly, because we have closed public comment, and so I need the board discussion. We've got a lot to talk about here, so I'll allow it quickly here. And then Iman, I think if I pronounce that correct, I'll get you next here real quick.
Well, I think in this whole process, you know how complicated it is. And we thought that this would, we put a lot of effort into it, and there ought to be some deferred to the local people, who are paying attention. We live here. And if you were there and saw it, you would see how this mountain dominates our view every day.
Great, thank you. Iman, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Close. It's Eamon, and
Eamon.
I'm Pat and Sharon's son. And I live a mile down the road, and this mountain dominates my view shed as well. It sounds like you guys, don't love the idea of Petite Teton, which I understand. One other idea here is my great-great-grandfather, who did the Lonesome Dove, like the movie Lonesome Dove. He did that trip twice, basically, and then settled and moved to right there at the bottom of the mountain in 1881. And, Salisbury's have been in this valley. My mom, I think, is the last Salisbury actually in our community. And I just wonder if, Salisbury Peak or something like that would make sense for this, as we were one of the very first families, or Salisbury's were one of the very first families in this community in 1881.
Great, thank you. Ms. Berry.
Just in general, I would be hesitant about naming something after a conflict between the settlers and the Native Americans without having some input from the tribes.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Benitez, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, that was just my comment. It was similar to the one that just made consultation with the tribes if we were considering anything of that nature.
Okay, and then the other part is that we do have, it says here, some other comments from a family that are owners of the eastern section of what is considered the mountain there, and they recommend some additional names. So feels like this might be kind of selecting between two families. So with that, board members, any additional thoughts? Director Barry.
I know there's no intention by the O'Toole family, and I really appreciate all the time that they took to give their input and do this research. If you look in, Webster, I mean, petite, the definition is small, trim figure. And I just think that, we should err on the side of caution when we're renaming something to try to avoid, to the extent possible, renaming it to something that's offensive to others. And so, I don't think I could support Petite Teton, those reasons.
Representative Will?
My only comment is I would like to give credence and credit to the locals there too for what they want to name the mountain.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do we have a final motion here? Do we want to table this and come back to it and think about this a little bit? We've got a bunch to work through here.
Tim, I personally would like to hear from the tribes as well.
And I'm not certain that we're at that point where we've got feedback from the tribes yet. According to Ms. Runyon, she has not seen any tribal input selected, and their consultation is still going forward. So I'm not certain that we're going to get that at this point. This might be one that we could reach out to the tribes and express that we can't come to a conclusion necessarily and go from there. Let me go to Director Gonzalez real quick here.
Yeah, I would just suggest that we table it and maybe go through a few of the others and then come back to it just to give us a little bit of time to think about it.
Okay. Representative Benavides.
I'll go along with that. I guess I'm not sure what else we can come up with. So I think there was a motion for Kathleen Creek, or was it just a proposal?
It was just a proposal, not yet a motion. So Dr. Gonzalez, did you want to make that motion to table this for right now?
Sure, I move to table this for the time being and go through some others and come back to it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Raise your hands. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will come back to this one. All right, next up here, we have Squaw Rock in Weld County. This is a summit. The federal task force had identified North Fork, Geary Creek, Chalk Bluffs, Geary Creek, Simpson Creek, and Antelope Spring. We had 3 proposals on this: Earth Lodge Rock, Wiseacre Rock, and Prairie Rock. The Earth Lodge Rock was proposed by the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, Matt Reed, out of Oklahoma. Thoughts?
Did the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Officer give any rationale for Earth
No.
Lodge?
There was no additional rationale.
Okay.
Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Signify by raising your digital hand. Mr. Roy Boyle, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi. And simply because I didn't know the facts behind the other one, but my support would be for Prairie Rock, just simply because of when you know the prairies, sometimes those marks are something that's somewhat unique. And anyway, I just want to give my support for that name. Now, I will change if the tribal nations decide on a different name or something like that, but I just thought I'd say that that's just my position for now.
Great, thank you. Any additional public comment regarding this matter? Not seeing any, we'll close public comment. Board members, what do we think? Representative Benavides.
I'd move for the Earth Lodge Rock as the name of our proposal.
Okay, we've got a motion there. Representative Will?
I too would go for Earth Lodge. I think there's too many things named Prairie and it would get confusing. There's much fewer less Earth Lodge than there is Prairie. So I would go for Earth Lodge myself.
Is that a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion in a second. Director Garcia, is that a hand or is that you support that?
A question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Discussion point before we vote. Just a quick question. Do we have any documentation from any local elected commissioners or probably the best candidates to make a comment? Do we have anything on record?
We do not have anything on record. Have not received any.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? All right. All in favor, identify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The next one here is Squaw Fingers in Mesa County. It's a pillar. We did not receive any public comment at all regarding this matter. The candidate names by the federal task force are Artists Point, Monument Canyon, Black Ridge, Gold Star Canyon, and Ute Canyon. Remember here now, since this is Squaw Fingers, that in the regards to like canyon perhaps or ridge or point, those might be eliminated by the federal task force and just use Artists Fingers perhaps. Monument, Black, Gold Star, or Ute. Any thoughts on this? And we can always just let this one up to the task force or to tribal input. Representative Benavides.
I'm going to tell you my feeling is on these that they all use the derogatory term squaw, and that if there is anything that leans more in favor of any of the tribes, I would go with that. So I would move Ute Canyon as the proposed.
Okay, got a motion. Actually, yeah. Let me see real quick if we've got any public comment on this matter real quick here. Signify by raising your hand. Or speak up. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. We've got a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor for the Ute Canyon, support for that for the candidate 5 named from the federal list, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Okay. One second here while I mark that. All right, moving on here. We have Squaw Creek in Summit County. This is a stream. We received 10 recommendations from the public. Summit County government did speak up and support Nuchu Creek as the replacement name. The federal task force included Palmer Knob, Gore Range, Williams Fork Mountains, Target Bluff, and Flat Top. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Mr. Blanchard, how's it going? Saw you come off mute.
Good morning, Director Mock and the naming board. Thank you so much for having this public forum. I am Josh Blanchard. I'm one of Summit County's commissioners, and I was the one who submitted our public comment on behalf of Summit County government. I also want to recognize that Karin Stiegelmeier, former Summit County commissioner, who's done a lot of work in this space, is also on the call today. Just wanted to reiterate our support for this recommendation. We did have a public work session at the BOCC last month as we discussed the different options that were recommended, those 5 names that you just read out. And we didn't particularly feel attached to any one of those recommendations. We did want to go back to that suggested Nuchu name. As we understand it, Nuchu is the self-identifying name from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe that says, basically translates to the Utes Mountains. And so we felt that that was important. And I will say that as Summit County BOCC in 2019 made a recommendation to rename the Gore Range, the recommended name was Nuchu. And so we felt that that was in the spirit of the Ute Mountain Ute tribe recommended name. And as I mentioned in our recommendation, we would defer if the Ute Mountain Utes had a different recommended name. Otherwise, we support the name that was submitted. So
Great.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate you joining us and for that feedback. Former County Commissioner Stiegelmeier, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks. I just wanted to reiterate and support what Josh said. And also quickly going through the names that were recommended from the federal process. Palmer Knob, there is Palmer right near the creek, but nobody seems to know who exactly it was named after. Maybe it's the Palmer, that's the Palmer Divide and lots of other Palmers in the Front Range. Gore Range Creek, that we already have hundreds of Gore names, so that is extremely redundant. Flat Tops doesn't really make sense. Flat Tops is pretty far away and very confusing. Williams Fork Creek doesn't really make sense because that's the range across the valley. And then the other one, I'm not familiar with either. Anyway, any of those names didn't really seem to make sense. And Nuchu Creek makes a lot of sense for the history of what we've been working on for quite a while.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Appreciate you joining us, Karin. Good to see you. JD.
Yeah, I apologize for that last mix up. Yeah, that Nuchu Creek, that sounded pretty good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, well, we'll keep it open here. Representative Benavides.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the public comment. I was just making a comment separate. I looked up the, I just put in what does Nuchu spelled that way mean in the Ute language, and something comes up as Nuuchi. So I'm just wondering, and maybe Director Redhorse could comment on that. But if we choose that one, because I would pick that one, and I would move that we adopt that name for this, but I want to make sure if we do that it's spelled correctly.
Okay, let me go to, I know that Ms. Stingelmeyer has actually worked on that Nuchu range proposal. Let me go to her to see what she has uncovered in the research real quickly. Karn?
Yeah, that's a great comment. We met with the tribes a number of times and discussed spelling. Once it was unanimous that they wanted Nuchu, and turns out there are many, many spellings, at least 10. And so lots of them with many, many U's and other vowels. And finally, we narrowed it down to, let's use this one that's a little easier to understand and spell. But there are many, many spellings of Nuchu, and the different tribes and their historians will tell you lots of different backgrounds about them.
So Karn, did you have support for that spelling Nuchu then for the your other proposal?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
from all three tribes and at meetings, and then we do have from the Ute Mountain Utes in writing, but we haven't gotten it in writing from the other two tribes. But at meetings, they have verbally agreed with that spelling.
Okay, thank you. Director Redhorse. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Will?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's the way in the Utes I've seen it spelled. So I'm familiar with that spelling. It's been used a lot, I know.
Great, thank you. Director Redhorse?
Yeah, I think Steigelmeyer was correct, is that there's a lot of different spellings of it, but I think it's just if they have consultations with the tribes and using that correct spelling, and then on the Ute Mountain Utes website, it is spelled and the way it's presented to us today.
Okay, great. So with that, unless there's any other public comment, seeing none, we will close public comment. Board, I'm sorry, JD.
Sorry about that, everyone, so late. This is a perfect example that I need to comment on that shows the inclusion of everybody. And this is what really makes me proud of what we're doing right now. And I had to say that. This is a perfect example. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, now we will close public comment. Board, do we have any further discussion or is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt Nuchu Creek.
Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Nuchu Creek signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Tim, this is Perry, Tim.
Yes.
If there's much opposition to that, I as a close second, I do like Medicine Wheel.
Okay.
That was
very
one of
good.
the suggestions, and I do like that.
So noted. Thank you. All right, moving on. We are now on to Squaw Creek in Eagle County. This is a stream. We received, I believe it was 13 or more comments regarding this matter. Is more actually, it looks like. Public comments here. Two stuck out. Fenno Creek, which was proposed at least by, you'll see, the Eagle County Historical Society, and then the Sierra Club Headwaters Group supports Colorado Creek and gives some justification on that. And then there's a lot of other names here also suggested, but those were the two standouts that I'd sort of identify in this one. With that, let me just open up this to public comment, see if we have any input on this matter. please signify by raising your digital hand. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, what are our thoughts? Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim, you know, you mentioned fentanyl and the in Colorado, but one of the other ones I think that I've had to talk to several people there in that vicinity, and they do like Stagecoach or Stage Creek as well because of the stage route that went through there from Minturn into Glenwood.
Okay.
So I think Stagecoach or something would have should hold some bearing on that as well. I tried to find out the actual name of the stage company that ran that and couldn't find that. And I did talk to the Eagle County Historical Society and Kathy Hiker on that and asked her if she could find the actual name of the company that ran the stage, but didn't have any luck. So, but I still think that should be an option, Stagecoach, and it's mentioned in the comments.
Yep, that was one of those that were submitted, or Stagecoach Creek. Any additional comments, board members? Representative Benavides.
Well, the risk of sounding like a broken record, again, this is derogatory towards Indigenous people, and I would, in light of the proposals, go with Colorado.
Okay.
And I'd make a motion to adopt Colorado as a name.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of Colorado Creek signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm sorry,
Tim, I have a
Representative-
question.
Yes, Representative Will.
And all due respect, Representative Benavides, could you enlighten me on Stagecoach?
Could I enlighten you on what? On Stagecoach?
You didn't like Stagecoach? Yeah, you said that was offensive, and
No, I
guess
didn't
wasn't
say it
aware
was
of that.
offensive. I said the Squaw Creek, the name Squaw, was offensive to Indigenous
thank you,
people.
'cause-
And to replace that, not Stagecoach.
Oh,
But that's why I
okay.
proposed Colorado. Sorry if I wasn't very clear on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, next up, we have Squaw Canyon in Dolores County. It is a valley. We had one comment regarding this matter from the Dolores County Commissioners for, I believe it's pronounced Sago Canyon. Let me open this up here to public comment, see if we have any public comment. JD.
What is Sago? Can somebody give us a little bit of history what that is?
Sure. So the Dolores Board of County Commissioners wrote that they have, that is going to relate to the next one as well, 2 geographic locations here. They had a public hearing with a group of their constituents that are residents of the area. And in fairness to them and the history of that area, they wanted to come up with a name that had implications of representation that all would be satisfied with. In the mid 1950s, this area was home to over 50+ families that had settled here from the Dust Bowl era to begin a new way of life and take advantage of the rich soil to farm, raise livestock. There was a Sago post office and a school, and most of their rural routes had Sago route addresses. The areas in proximity to the Utah border, and the Sago lily is the state flower of Utah. And upon further research, they discovered the Sago lily flower became a symbol of peace during the First World War and portrayed the plant an image of home, mercy, freedom, and peace for the men and women who were serving the battlefields of Europe. The Sago lily is commonly found in this area of Dolores County. And it was a unanimous vote by the citizens that attended this meeting. They wanted to rename these geographical locations for Sago.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't, I don't have access to the agenda. Sorry about that. So I sincerely appreciate that.
Great, you bet. Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board, any thoughts?
Well, it's actually a very beautiful native flower. And I agree with the Dolores County Commissioners and would move to adopt Sago Canyon.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now on to Squaw Point in Dolores County. It's a summit. And again, the Dolores County Commissioners are the only comment that we received. Same public comment was submitted in regards to Sago Canyon, and that is to rename this as Sago Point. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board members, what do we think? Representative Will.
I'm good with that. I move that we name it Sago Point.
Okay,
Second.
get a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we are now on to Squaw, geographic feature named Squaw in Montezuma County. This is a pillar. We did not receive any public comment regarding this matter. Instead, the candidate list includes Mesa Verde, West Rim, Head Draw, Chimney Rock Draw, West Chimney Rock Draw, and Navajo Wash. Is there any public comment regarding this matter?
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I forgot to raise my hand.
Oh.
So the names you just read off, those are just reference points that could inform a new name. Is that correct? Because Mesa Verde, we wouldn't, we all know that's a location already.
Yes, so that is, it's a bit tricky here. These are candidate names that were identified through a simple mapping feature. It wasn't necessarily proofed, essentially. And so the federal task force that was set up identified basically the nearest 5 geographic features within a 5-mile radius there and came up with those. Now, in some of these cases, they would drop, like if we were renaming a creek and it said something mountain, they would drop the mountain and name it as the something there, the pillar in this case. So those are just recommendations that they would also kind of further kind of clarify and pare down a little bit.
Okay.
Representative Benavides.
What's a pillar? I don't know what that is as far as the geographic.
I am not certain
what is it?
That is. Let me see if Miss Runyon, who actually deals with pillars and naming pillars, might give us a description of what we're talking about when we're looking at a pillar.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. Yeah, a pillar is more of just a very so standalone rock formation. It's not like a huge mountain or even a hill or even a knob. It would be just if I was trying to scramble to look at the topographic map while you were talking there, it's just a standalone kind of pointy rock formation. So typically a lot smaller than a mountain.
Yeah. Thank you,
So-
Miss. Oh, there you're, Miss Benavides.
Yeah, could I ask, because I'm looking at the proposed, there weren't any public proposed names, but like Chimney Rock Draw, I don't know what a draw is, or Head Draw, or the West Rim, because I'm thinking if we picked Chimney Rock, and so now we have Chimney Rock Pillar and Draw. I don't know what a draw is either. We're naming it
Yeah.
after.
I think a draw, and I bet Representative Perry or Miss Runyon clarified, draw is kind of a more narrow, shorter kind of almost canyon-like type of feature. Representative Will?
Thank you. It's more like an arroyo, I guess would be the easier thing. A drainage, a small drainage is a draw. And so we already have Chimney Rocks in Colorado. I don't know if that's a great choice or not, but.
So what's a rim? What's the Mesa Verde West Rim?
Part of like the top of the canyon, essentially.
Yeah. So it's a
Okay.
geographical feature. It's a geographical feature, of a mesa top or something. The rim, the edge of the geographic feature is the rim. So you walk over the edge of something and look off the rim into the canyon. That's the rim.
And so if we wanted to pick Mesa Verde, it could be the Mesa Verde Pillar.
Yes. That's actually how I think the federal task force is going to finalize this, and if that were the case going forward.
Yeah, this is an odd one. We don't typically see a name like this. It's just a single word like that. You typically would have pillar or some what we call generic term appended to it, like rock or mountain or hill or something. So this is rather a strange one. So I would probably suggest certainly that if you're going to recommend a replacement, that you maybe add the word pillar to the end. Otherwise, it's going to be just Mesa Verde standing by itself, which might not fit. So I would say in this case, add a generic term like pillar. For what it's worth, looking at the topographic map, it looks like it's a, like I said, sort of a stand-up, sort of a standalone rock formation, but immediately to the south and part of the other half of the pillar is called Papoose. So you've got a squaw and Papoose together, rising up from the landscape there. So obviously someone decided it's a sort of almost like a mother and child reference, I guess. It's unusual. I guess if I might, I'll just read the definition of pillar from the official database. Sorry, close my screen there. A pillar is a vertical standing, sorry, screen keeps closing. Sorry. A vertical standing, often spire-shaped natural rock formation, such as a chimney, monument, pinnacle, pohaku, or rock tower. So I guess, yeah, chimney or pinnacle or rock tower might be the closest comparison term.
And then Mr. Aaron from the Department of Natural Resources, he just pointed out that this feature is actually, it looks like it's located on the Ute Mountain Ute Reservation. So, board members, what do we think?
I think this is one we could leave to the USGS board because they're still working with the tribes on coming up with a proposed name. And so I would assume that they would be reaching out to the Utes and trying to come up with the most preferred name.
Okay. Board members, what do we think about just leaving this to the federal task force and passing this along? We can pass along not only our recommendations to the tribes, but also identify this specifically to point out that we would like the Ute Mountain Ute perhaps to provide comment on this.
Mr. Chair, Rick Garcia. I would agree with Ms. Berry's comment. Seems to make sense under the circumstances.
Okay. Unless there's further discussion, do I have a motion? Director Barry.
I move to allow the task force in consultation with the Ute tribe determine the name.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion, got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, the next one that we have is Squaw Hill in Yuma County. This is a summit. We received only one public comment through our process, and that was from Matt Reed, the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, who recommends Pawnee Hill. The federal task force identified Black Wolf Creek, Arickery, if I pronounce that correctly, River, South Fork, Dry Willow Creek, Wombles Meadow, and Sand Creek. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, to you, thoughts?
I move that we adopt Pawnee Hill.
Okay. I've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? We've got a motion and a second. Representative Will.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Just my only discussion is, we have Pawnee buttes and that Pawnee's used a lot on especially geographical things on the plains anyway. So might be a little confusing from Pawnee buttes to Pawnee Hill, and so that's just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion, board members? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are now on to Squaw Creek in Archuleta County. This is a stream. We received only one public comment, and that was from the San Juan Citizens Alliance, and that was South Fork of Yellow Jacket Creek. What they explain here is that these are it's in the vicinity of Yellow Jacket Pass and Highway 160. The San Juan Citizens Alliance is a regionally based citizen conservation organization with 1,000 members across Southwest Colorado, have a long running interest in the geography of the mountains, which include the two referenced creeks. Our suggestions follow that their suggestion is South Fork of Yellow Creek. The Squaw Creek drainage is a tributary to the larger Yellow Jacket Creek drainage immediately to the north, which makes selecting South Fork of Yellow Creek an obvious geographic naming convention consistent with the larger combined watershed. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, what are your thoughts?
The San Juan Citizens Alliance is a pretty active watershed group and do have a lot of community members. So it sounds like they did quite a bit of outreach with the community. And I think what they're suggesting is fine.
Okay, Councilwoman Joseph.
Thank you. I just have a question, and I read the same statement that you just read to me. I'm still a little confused what it means, Little Yellow Jacket Creek. I think I get the idea, but I still don't understand the little and the yellow jacket part. Can you elaborate maybe?
Yeah, so There are actually, we're going to get to this next. The next one is another geographic feature, Little Squaw Creek. And so they're keeping the little in there consistent with the beginning of that reference, but calling it the Little Yellow Jacket Creek in regards to that one. So that's where that comes from. You think about like, there's the Bighorn, and then there's also like the Little Bighorn in certain parts of the United States. Also, you think about my community where I live, there's Clear Creek. There's also the West Fork of Clear Creek and the South Fork of Clear Creek that flow into Clear Creek proper. Does that help, Councilwoman?
Thank you so much. I mean, I know I have very limited knowledge when it comes to tribal nations or Native American names. I defer to the rest of the board, but I thought it was mentioned earlier, something about little, the word little, but I defer to the rest of the board.
Yeah, and I think that that was in regards to a body feature that the name actually implied. In this case, I don't think that that's quite the case. Additional comments, or do we have a motion? Representative Will?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think in this reference, it's just a smaller drainage.
Yes.
Drainage.
Representative Benavides, did I see your hand?
Yeah, it's just not knowing what it means, but I'm getting between the two. They want to make it Yellow Jacket Creek. What does South Fork mean? I know of a fork in a road, but what does South Fork mean? Is that a fork that goes south in the way the creek runs?
Representative Will, yes, I think you've essentially got that correct.
Yeah, and the South Fork would be the further South Fork of that particular drainage.
And
so
then
They come together to form the larger Yellow Jacket Creek.
Correct.
So let me ask another question, because you're talking about drainage. This creek, is there other Yellow Jacket creeks anywhere? Because one of the proposals is a Yellow Jacket Pass that's nearby there, but I'm assuming there's no other Yellow Jacket creeks.
There is in this case. So
there
as I
is.
explained in the explanation there, the Squaw Creek drainage is a tributary to the larger Yellow Jacket Creek. So there's already a Yellow Jacket Creek in which these tributaries flow into and contribute to. Representative Will, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I'm just going to say there's other Yellow Jacket creeks. There's some up by Meeker, north of Meeker there, that's Yellow Jacket as well. But in this case, I think their suggestions make a lot of sense. And then a further conversation on the South Fork, it's just like in Rio Blanco County, the White River basically is flowing west, and then the South Fork of the White River, it's just a drainage that comes into the south and joins the main White River, but it basically runs from east to west and a little bit north at times, but it's the southern part of that drainage, so it's called the South Fork. Doesn't mean it flows that direction. It means that's a drainage that's the south, the North Fork versus South Fork, just in relation there. So,
and in this case, we're kind of interchanging drainage and creek or the waterway essentially that flows. So I think as Representative Will kind of identifies it, these are also creeks. It's an existing Squaw Creek, Little Squaw Creek that flow into the Yellow Jacket Creek in this case.
lots of drainages with the East Fork and the West Forks too. So
yeah.
So I guess I would move that we adopt the South Fork of Yellow Jacket Creek.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair, Rick Garcia.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same
Aye.
side. Motion carries. Okay, moving on now. This is in regards to Little Squaw Creek in Archuleta County, also a stream. And the only public feedback that we received was the aforementioned Little Yellow Jacket Creek by the San Juan Citizens Alliance.
It looks like there's a little Leland Creek. Doesn't say who it's
Oh,
from.
I'm sorry. Yes, I thanks for pointing that out. That was another recommendation that came in from somebody who lives in Adams County as Little Leland Creek, and that is all that we received in regards to that submission. No further additional clarifying comments as to why that might be. They're suggesting that name. Is there any public feedback or comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment to the board. What are our thoughts?
I think it makes sense, just like the other one that the San Juan Citizens Alliance proposed, to name this Little Yellow Jacket Creek, and I would move that we adopt that name.
Great. We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And Representative Will, you had your hand up. Were you seconding, or is there you have a comment?
No, I'm just making a comment. It makes sense if that drainage is one's the South Fork and then the smaller one is Little Yellow Jacket. It just makes sense, and it's I don't think it's confusing at all. So I would suggest that as well.
Okay, very good. We've got a motion, a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, moving on to the next one is Squaw Canyon, located in Archuleta County. This is a valley, and we only received one public comment, and that is to name it Wapiti Canyon, and they have further additional comments that say that explain that Wapiti is the Shawnee name for elk. Otherwise, we have received no further comment on this matter. Is there any public comment regarding this? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, what are our thoughts? Representative Will.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any opposition to that, but we can't name everything Wapiti, because that suggested a lot for a lot of things, and I love it, but it's at the same time I'm not sure we can name everything Wapiti.
What were the task force?
Is there any other suggestions?
Yeah, so the task force suggestions came from surrounding geographic features include 8 Mile Mesa, Echo Canyon Reservoir, Turkey Mountain, Oak Brush Hill, and Winter Hills. So if you think about this, it would be probably, if we were to select this, it'd be like 8 Mile Canyon or Echo Canyon or Turkey Canyon, etc. Does anybody have any thoughts about any of those? And again, that's 8 Mile Mesa, Echo Canyon Reservoir, Turkey Mountain, Oak Brush Hill, and Winter Hills.
Yeah, those aren't great, but and my pick out of those would be 8 Mile, but
okay. Councilwoman Joseph.
Yeah, I'd second that. I like 8 miles. I don't like Turkey for some reason. It doesn't sound very appropriate, but 8 miles sounds fine to me.
Could I ask a question about 8 miles? What does that mean? Is it is it 8 miles from something, or I just don't know what it means.
I don't know. It's in regards to, it's called 8 Mile Mesa. I don't know if that's a mesa that's 8 miles long. Commissioner Chimino, do you know?
Well, I have reference from our county. We have a 8 Mile Creek, 9 Mile Creek, 10 Mile Creek, and it was named, that's the distance from the original ranch. The first person that had a ranch, it was that far from their house before they hit the creek. And so I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's common to do that, I think.
Very common.
Yeah, but do we know that this one is 8 miles from anywhere? If we just put that on there?
It's at least 8 miles from maybe the mesa to somewhere, and then within at a 5 mile radius from 8 Mile Canyon. I do not.
I don't know if that description would go well. Yeah, go down well. I wonder if well, it's pretty easy to look on a map, go from point of origin 8 miles out and see what that is.
Let's see here real quick if we can, there's Echo Canyon Reservoir. I wonder if we can see if identify that this might flow into Echo Canyon Reservoir. With that, Councilwoman Joseph.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions. I did like Echo as well, but do we know the meaning of all these different names, possible names?
Yeah, we do not. The federal task force just did a simple, like I said, the radius there. I'm looking at a map and it doesn't identify what flows in or out of Echo Canyon Reservoir. I'm not seeing that here. But from there, it then flows into the San Juan River, and Echo Canyon is located nearby within the vicinity of all of this. Ms. Runyon.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks like from the topographic map that Echo Canyon Reservoir is on the next drainage up to the north. So if approved, Echo Canyon would not be aligned with Echo Canyon Reservoir. That helps at all. And I'm looking to the south of this drainage. This canyon is 8 Mile Mesa, as you've noted. I'm not seeing anything else that's got numbers on it. Well, it could be about 8 miles long in size, perhaps. That might be the reason for the name. But again, Echo Canyon Reservoir is not along this proposed Echo Canyon. So it might not make sense.
Okay, Director Barry.
When I looked at the topographic map too, there's a whole series of road networks right near their National Forest Service roads that are named 8 Mile. It's like 8 Mile Road A, 8 Mile Road B. So it seems to be a common name in that area.
Okay, so maybe back to 8 Mile. I see Councilwoman Joseph shaking your head.
Well, I'll throw it out there. I move that we adopt 8 Mile.
Okay, is there a second? We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Could I abstain?
Yes, and one abstaining. All right. Very good, and let me find my place again here. Okay, we are on to Squaw Gulch in Ouray County. It is a valley. I did have some communications with Commissioner Lynn Paget regarding this matter. You can see that the only comments that we received, including from the Board of County Commissioners, was Hayden Gulch, but that is an absence of a meeting that they're having this Wednesday with the with representatives of the Ute tribes. Commissioner Paget was actually out of town when we had sent along the notification regarding this matter. And she would like, if it's not Hayden Gulch, or she's going to provide preference to the tribal input regarding this matter. So we could include perhaps Hayden Gulch. I will know by Wednesday. I could wait until they hold that meeting, and she said that she will call me right after. And if you would like, we can have maybe a motion in regards to this that might give the board chair the authority. Would that be the terminology in terms of passing on the recommendation stemming from the Board of County Commissioners and the Ute Tribes consultation regarding this matter? Commissioner Chimino.
I move that we authorize the board chair to forward on whatever recommendation the tribe offers at that Wednesday meeting.
Okay, we've got a motion. Represent. We've got a second. I've got Councilwoman Joseph's hand up. Let me go to you real quick.
I did have a question before we move with this motion.
Yes.
So what's the difference from waiting for tribal input to just having the commissioner send over? I just didn't get that part. I didn't get the two things that we're trying to do here, or at least the recommendation.
So the Commissioner Chimino, do you want to clarify?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try. What I meant with the motion was that since the meeting is date certain, since the meeting is very likely to result in a tribe recommended name, that we just simply say we're going to forward that name on and not have to reconvene this board before that happens. So I hope that makes sense. Whatever they decide on Wednesday in Array County, with that's the name that we forward on, and we're authorizing the chair to do that without reconvening this board.
And so, Councilwoman Joseph, I'm thinking that it's going to take me a couple of days to compile this in a recommendation to the governor and characterize. I'm sorry. Oh, and characterize the conversation that we've had regarding these matters. And I think that we can wait until Wednesday for that recommendation. Commissioner Paget said she would get back to me right away following that. So we could wait until then, and I can include that then, that recommendation.
Thank you. I think that's fair. That's fair to go with Commissioner.
Okay.
Well, Director Chimino's recommendation.
Yeah, Chimino. Thank you.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Actually, look, we didn't have public comment. Let me just see if there's any public comment regarding this matter. Not seeing any. Director Barry.
I'm just wondering, after reading through Lynn Paget's comments, if the Ute tribe doesn't recommend anything, do we want to make sure the motion says either Hayden Gulch was as recommended by the county or whatever the Ute tribe proposes?
Commissioner Chimino, would you accept that as an amendment?
Yes, I accept that friendly amendment.
Okay, and then who had the second there? That was Representative Benavides. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got a clarifying amendment that we will recommend Hayden Gulch in absence of a Ute tribal recommendation, working with the Board of County Commissioners there. I don't see any public comment, so I will close that. We've got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we are on to Squaw Creek in Hinsdale County. It is a stream. We did receive a number of recommendations here, including from the Hinsdale Board of County Commissioners that took issue with the federal task force recommendations, especially I think the number one where it was Antelope Creek. And they engaged in a community outreach effort to poll residents and other partners for the suggested name, and that was Grizzly Creek. We also received at least one other comment from the Creed Historical Society supporting Grizzly or Badger Creek. Let me see here. If we have any public comment regarding this matter, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, what are our thoughts? Councilwoman Joseph.
From just reading quickly the additional comments, it seems both the Historical Society and the Hinsdale County Board of County Commissioners would support Grizzly Creek, but they didn't fully explain Grizzly documented in the immediate area. So they're referring to grizzly bears, I would imagine.
Yeah, so if I read this correctly, the Creed Historical Society's comment, the proposed name, if related to animals, grizzlies are documented in the immediate area, although hunted to extinction.
Yeah, for me, based on just these comments, I would support Grizzly Creek.
Okay, Director Barry, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say, it sounds like Hinsdale County did quite a bit of community outreach, and this was the consensus name. So I would support that.
Okay. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt Grizzly Creek.
Second.
We've got a second there. I saw, I think the photo finish shows Councilwoman Joseph made the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion, I'm sorry, Representative Benavides?
I want to abstain.
Okay. We have got, the motion carries with Representative Benavides abstaining. All right, moving on now to Squaw Lake in Hinsdale County. This is a lake. Again, we have feedback from the Hinsdale Board of County Commissioners that support utilizing the name Grizzly Lake. We received a handful of other recommendations there in the proposal. Do we have any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board, to you, what are our thoughts here?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Representative Benavides.
And I just, one of the proposals from the USGS is now I can't find it. I can't even spell it. Weminuche Creek. Weminuche. Does anybody know what that means?
There's also a Weminuche Wilderness area as well.
It's pronounced Weminuche, and it's I believe it's a band of one of the Ute tribes, one of the 7 Ute tribes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. So I'd like to move that we name it after the Weminuche Creek.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Give me a second here. I've lost my place. All right, we are now on to Little Squaw Creek in Hinsdale County. It is a stream, and we've received a handful of public comment here, including from the Hinsdale County Board of County Commissioners, who recommend Little Spruce Creek. We also have public comment identifying either grizzly or badger, little moose or chipeta. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay,
so.
I think so. Okay.
It's Chipeta.
Chipeta? Okay, thank you. So with that, is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, what are our thoughts? Representative Benavides.
I have another question on Chief Mountain. What is that named for? Does anybody know?
I do not know. I know that Clear Creek has a Chief Mountain as well, but otherwise I do not know what it was named after.
Because the comments above that, it said somebody who suggested Lake Ouray also said on there that it was named after that was also fits with other close by creeks and mountains, Chief Mountain, Ute Creek, and Ute Ridge. So I know Chief can be used with reverence, but also in a derogatory manner. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Let me see. I don't recall if I opened this up to public comment. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? JD. JD, I think you might be on mute still if you're speaking.
Oh, my bad. Yes, Representative Benavides, that's a very good question. That's what I was going to actually ask, something of that nature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comment? We will close public comment. Board, back to you. Director Barry.
So this is one again where it looks like the county did some community outreach and polled the community. And this was the name suggested by the community, Little Spruce Creek. So unless, there was tribal input for a different name, I would recommend that we went with Little Spruce Creek.
Okay,
and I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Got a motion on the table. Councilwoman Joseph.
I will support that motion. That was part of the calculus as well, is that it's something that's supported by the community.
Okay, so that's a second. Got a motion, and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Dr. Gonzalez.
I just have a question. So does the creek, does it feed into the lake, or what is the relationship there?
That is a good question. Let me see if I can find that. Ms. Runyon.
No, it does not. It looks like you've got the small lake, just a small sort of a glacial lake. It doesn't seem to have much of a stream feeding in or out of it. And then the next drainage over is the Squaw Creek. And then the next mountain beyond that is Chief Mountain. So no, there's no hydrographic connection to the between the lake and the creek.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
My apologies. As I zoom into the map further, my apologies. I tried to interrupt. I'm sorry. There is a small blue line. The water does flow out of Squaw Lake down the mountainside into Squaw Creek. So yeah, there is a connection. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Dr. Gonzalez.
I would then suggest that we name it Weminuche or Little Weminuche Creek.
Okay.
Since it is tied to the lake.
I have a motion, a second on the table here. We've got to take that up, but your comment is noted. Still to the.
Could you make a substitute motion?
Would you like to make a substitute motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, we've got a substitute motion on the table.
Second.
We've got a second, and so to this matter here, is there any additional comment, feedback from the board?
Yeah, my only comment would be to really honor the community input, and also recognize we haven't heard from the tribes. So I would assume that would have been taken into consideration, and also to remind the board that tributaries that flow out of lakes aren't necessarily all named Little, whatever the primary name is. So Two Pines wouldn't be out of, or I'm sorry, Little Pines wouldn't be out of line if we wanted to keep considering it.
Any additional comments, feedback? Representative Will.
Jim, I like to, stick with it. If that's what the local community wants that, I think we need to give that consideration as well. But I don't have a problem with either one, but.
Okay. Director Barry, you made the original motion. Do you have any comment?
No, just other than, I made the motion because of the community outreach and support.
Okay. So we've got a substitute motion and second on the table. Let's go to that here. And if it doesn't pass, we will go back to the original motion or further discussion. So with that, board members, let me see where we're at. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Jim, what are we voting on? I got confused.
I'm confused too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is in regards to the substitute motion to rename Little Squaw Creek Weminuche Creek.
Little Weminuche Creek.
Little Weminuche. Thanks for the clarification there. So let me go back here. I'm sorry, Representative Benavides, do you have a comment?
No. I thought you were voting.
Okay, yeah. So those in favor of Little Weminuche Creek signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let me go to a voice vote here to get this one straight. So, give me a second. Representative Will,
Yeah, I voted no.
no. Representative Benavides,
Yes.
Representative Exum is not with us still. Councilwoman Joseph,
Nay.
Commissioner Chimino,
Yes.
Director Redhorse,
Yes.
Dr. Limerick, I don't think has been able to join us. Director Barry,
No.
Mr. Benitez,
Nay.
is Miss Nelson on? Let's see here, Dr. Gonzalez,
I vote yes.
and is Director Garcia with us? He is not, so we have, I guess, my own vote. In this case, what we're going to be doing at the end here is making a recommendation that also includes providing deference or priority to any names that come forth from the tribe. So I'm going to vote no on this to honor the local feedback there. So to the so that motion fails. To the original motion to rename it Little Spruce Creek.
Hey, Tim,
Yes,
would you mind taking a second and working through the numbers with me? I know we're close to time. I just want to make sure we're adherent with the bylaws.
yes. So there are 9 board members on the call here. We had, by my count, I believe 5 no and 4 yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry, I must have written it down wrong. I had 6 and 3. You're fine.
Okay. Did anybody else have something different or? I think that's what we had. Okay. So to the original motion here to support Little Spruce Creek, is there any further comment, discussion?
Just ask for a voice vote, person
Okay.
vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
No.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Representative.
I meant by person. You called it
By
person
person.
vote.
Yes. Okay, so here we go. 2 for Little Spruce Creek. We'll do a roll call. Let's see here, Dr. Wayne's not here. Representative Will.
Yes.
Representative Benavides.
No.
Councilwoman Joseph.
Yes.
Commissioner Chimino.
Yes.
Director Redhorse. Director Redhorse, you're muted, I think, still. We will come back to Director Redhorse. Dr. Limerick is still not with us. Director Barry.
Yes.
Mr. Benitez.
Yes.
Ms. Nelson is still not with us. Dr. Gonzalez.
No.
Director Garcia is not with us. I am a yes. And Director Redhorse. Do not have Director Redhorse. So by my tally, that is 6-2. Motion carrying. Okay. We will note this in the minutes and as we pass along the recommendation. All right, moving on. We now have Squaw Pass in Hinsdale County. This is a gap, or what they refer to as the passes in geographic location speak. And we received again a handful here of public comment regarding this. Hinsdale County Board of County Commissioners recommended Grizzly Pass, also pointing to their community outreach effort. Also included is either Grizzly or Badger, Moose Pass, or Tabagawatch Pass. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Tabawatch.
Tabawatch. Thank you. All right, so to this matter, do we have any public comment regarding this? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board members, to you. Councilwoman Joseph.
I just have a question. And again, I think this name is being submitted by the county commissioners. I wonder, is there any, have we considered by having those names that are very close and similar, could that cause any confusion when it comes to safety? We've talked about that before, and I'm just wondering for today, having similar names being used for different landmarks.
It's possible this would be Grizzly Pass as opposed to Grizzly Creek in those cases. Ms. Runyon, do you have any advice or guidance?
You're right, it could cause confusion. On the other hand, these features have all been named Squaw for so long, which would be presumably equally confusing. And I think this is a case where having a map really is going to be very helpful. And I will trust that the task force, when they review all these submissions, will have a map. And so it is conceivable, yes, that at the end of the day, they could reject names that could cause confusion. But given that the county recommended, I would imagine they would have considered that. And again, the existing names are already duplicated if you look at the first part of the name anyway. So I guess you have to go with a certain level of trust that it'll work out at the end.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board members, further discussion, thoughts? Representative Benavides.
Again, I like the name Tabawatch Pass that was proposed. Doesn't say who was proposing it, but it is one of the Ute bands. So I'd make a motion to adopt Tabawatch Pass.
Okay.
I would actually second that.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you. Further, is there any further discussion regarding this matter?
I third that.
Okay. And I would be supportive as well. So with that, got a motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, board members, we've been at it here for 2 hours. Do we need a quick 5-10 minute break?
Yes.
Okay, let's take 10 minutes. How about to refresh ourselves, get some water, bite to eat or something. We will be back at 3:15. Thank you. It is now 3:15 here, and we will resume. The next one that we are on to is Squaw Hill in Montrose County. This is a summit. We did not receive any public comment regarding this matter. The federal task force came up with Hairpin Creek, Cedar Creek, Dry Cedar Creek, Rawhide Gulch, and Shin Park. Thoughts? Representative
public
Will.
comment on this one? No public comment on this, sir?
No public comment on this one. No, that is correct.
Could you say those names again?
You bet. It includes Hairpin Creek, Cedar Creek, Dry Cedar Creek, Rawhide Gulch, and Shin Park. So, you know, if we selected one of these, it'd be, for instance, Hairpin Hill or Cedar Hill, removing the creeks or gulches in this case.
What's could I ask what Shin Creek was named after? It looks like a person's name.
I do not know what Shin Creek
or Shin Park
or park was named after. I'm trying to do a search real quick. I do not see a comment regarding this geographic feature in particular. I only notice, Director Barry.
When I pull it up on the topographic map, it looks like the current Squaw Hill is actually tributary to both Hairpin Gulch or Ditch and Hairpin Creek. So it makes sense to me that Hairpin would be a good name to rename it to.
Okay, and I'm trying to Google to see if we can find where Shin Park originated from. But I do not see it. I'm sorry, was there, let me open this up to public comment here real quick and see if there's anything public comment that might be enlightening. Seeing none, we will close public comment. And Representative Benavides, to your question, I am not seeing explanation. Director Barry had mentioned that Hairpin is in the vicinity there. Do we have any other thoughts here?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to rename it to Hairpin.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Abstain.
And Representative Benavides abstaining. Okay. Next, we have Squaw Creek, also in Montrose County. It is a stream. We only received public feedback from the Montrose Board of County Commissioners. They are recommending Veo Creek. The creek runs through the old Veo Sheep Ranch, Veo or Veo. I'm not sure if there's anybody that might clarify that. That'd be helpful. Over 100 years ago, and are interested in keeping some of the local history alive. The federal task force included Coal Hill, Dial Point, Crystal Reservoir, Sheep Knob, and Morrow Point Reservoir. Is there any public, I'm sorry, Representative Benavides.
I just have a question. If they sent anything about the VOs other than they had a ranch, anything about the individual? I get leery of naming it after people's names and we know nothing about them other than they own a piece of property.
It's a very good point. And they did not send any additional information. Trying to do a Google search here to see if we can find anything. Is there any other board comment or discussion? I'm not seeing anything here. Councilwoman Joseph.
I would echo Representative Benavides. I agree, it's right not to pick a person's name who we have no history on and know what they stand for or what they represent back then. So I support that comment.
Dr. Gonzalez.
I just put an article from the Montrose Press about the Veo or Veo family. So if folks want to take a look at that. It says he was a well-known ranching family in that area.
Give everybody a moment here, or I can read this if you'd like to take a look at that. While you're doing that, let me see if there's any public comment here regarding this. And I see JD in the chat there, preferring not to. JD, would you like to make that comment?
Yes, and hang with me just for a moment. I'm going to try to do something here. Somebody that has been on here who I respect very much is Danae, and she actually mentioned how tribal nations intentionally try not to name after people. And we've found ourselves in a great deal of trouble, if you noticed, because not everybody that we think is a hero, somebody else may find them not so. And somebody, I'm going to read this to you. It says, I'd submit that because of the bad ideas he promoted, Dr. King is responsible for a great part of the destruction that has occurred in America today, especially among Black Americans, the group he supposedly saved. Now, the reason I read that to you is everybody knows who I am, and they know I am a person of color. But every time we see a hero, somebody's going to find fault with it, and there's going to be conflict. I would strongly suggest, and again, I'm just as a Colorado resident, I strongly suggest we stay clear of names, memorializing individuals for any reason, because the conflict, it's just getting too much. And particularly, as everybody knows, where I live, it's getting dangerous. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie.
I just wanted to jump on an echo of maybe avoiding any names. I think too, I just glanced at the article and it looks like the family's ranch was established in the late 1800s. And I think we all know what was happening in Colorado at that time. And while ranching has a big part of Colorado history, and I understand that, we're also looking to replace a derogatory term for a Native woman. And so I think it's really important that when we are choosing names and going through this process of thinking about that name we're replacing, and not only replacing the name so that it's welcoming to everybody, but also honoring the people who have, quite frankly, a genocide was carried out on them in the state. And so I think honoring, going about this and thinking about when was that ranch established? Late 1800s. Well, what was going on? So I would just offer that up for you all to consider. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Ms. Hoover. You're on mute. Just
Okay, all right. Can you hear
Here
me
you
now?
are.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry. No, I second what JD and Kate just said. And, I tried to get the Montrose Ute Indian Museum director engaged on this whole subject And she's Lakota, CJ. But she didn't want to, opine on her two, they're right outside of Montrose, these features. So I get frustrated, but I understand too why some people don't want to be involved.
Great, thank you.
So, but if you naming it after a person, unless you research the person and all the community, everybody agrees on it, I would stay away from a person, naming it after a person. I agree, unless it's, a youth leader that, and then they all have to agree on that too, the 3 tribes.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Back to the board. Thoughts? Representative Benavides.
I don't recall the motion that was made before, but I would say in this one to leave it up to the USCGS unless there's input from a tribe. Because I think none of those really stand out to me other than Deal Point, but I think that's also probably named after somebody who we don't know who.
Okay.
So.
Councilwoman Joseph.
I will second Representative Benavides' statement and to leave it to the USBGN. But I do have a comment as a point of clarification that this particular board would adapt a person's name if that name was appropriate. Am I correct?
Yes, I think I'm seeing some head nods. Yes. Director Barry.
Pulling it up on the topographic map, it is very close to Coal Hill. Not a very exciting name, but I could see, since its relationship to the hill, that Coal Creek could be appropriate too.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from the board? I've got 2 that are suggesting that we leave this to the USGS, 1 possibly entertaining Coal. Any thoughts? Is there a motion?
I had already made a motion and Director Joseph or Commissioner Joseph, whatever we are.
Okay, and that's to leave it to the USGS. We have the motion from Representative Benavides, seconded by Councilwoman Joseph. Okay, any further discussion, board? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next we have Squaw Gulch in Gunnison County. It is a valley. We received no public comment regarding this matter from the federal task force. The names that they came up with was Sawatch Range, Jones Peak, Mount Chavano, Tabawatch Peak, and Mount White.
Is that? Oh, I was going on this chart and I was, the one above that, right under Coal Hill, was Red Mountain, Whetstone Mountain.
Uh-huh. Oh, did I read the wrong one? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Thanks for the clarification there. So I'm sorry, the federal task force was Red Mountain, Whetstone Mountain, Ranger Hot Spring, Cement Creek, and Big Alkali Lake. Let me see if there's any public comment regarding this matter here. Signify by raising your digital hand. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board, what are your thoughts? Representative Benavides.
None of those really mean anything to me or stick out, like Cement Creek. I don't know that would work. So I would also move to leave this to USBGN since we had no other input.
Okay. I've got a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Now on to Squaw Creek in Chaffee County. This is a stream. We received two public comments, or I'm sorry, we received one public comment, and then the other is actually already pending as a proposal on the USBGN review list. Number 446. We provided that background there in your packets today. And now why am I not finding that? I apologize. I think something didn't quite come through. And give me a second while I kind of look at this up here. In the meantime, is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, I'm going to have to find this because I don't see that it was included on that review list. I must have missed that when cutting and pasting the review list together. So if we want to table this to find more about that, I will pull that up. And provide some feedback. Do we want to come back to this one? Okay, let's just set that one aside here for a second while I pull up that review list. Next up, we have Squaw Creek in Saguache County. It is a stream. We did not receive any public comment. The federal task force came up with Long Park, Lower South Park, La Garita Mountains, Mount Lion, and Canero Pass. If I pronounced that correctly. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board members, thoughts?
Could I ask a question, just if anybody knows anything about Canero Pass? What is that named after someone, or what is that?
I do not have an answer to that. Does anybody else? I don't see that we've got that information.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Any other thoughts? Director Barry, I see you're off mute. Did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just looking it up on the topographic map to see the relationship of what the USGS recommendations were. I don't recall what those, oh, let's see, Long Peak. It is very close to Mount Lion.
Okay, thank you. So it's close to Mount Lion. I don't know if we want to go with that or if this is one of those where we leave this up to the US BGN and the federal task force.
I'm fine to make a motion to leave it up to the federal task force.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, very good. All right, let's go back to Squaw Creek in Chaffee County. That's a stream. Here is a little bit of information regarding Baroni Creek. This was submitted by an individual, Tom Rawlings from Buena Vista, recognizing that squaw is a derogatory term and recommending it be changed to Baroni Creek. What he says is that the proposed name would commemorate Antoine Francois Baronet Vasquez, who was the interpreter and guide for Zebulon Pike's expedition from 1806 to 1807. He was called Baroni by the expedition as recorded in Pike's journals. The proponent, who has written a book about the expedition, reports that Vasquez was instrumental in both interpreting, though he did not know Spanish very well, and turning deer and buffalo skins into clothing. It was he who helped show the men how to use animal skins to cover their upper bodies and sew hides into leggings. According to one of the historians who studied Pike's journals, the expedition camped at or near the mouth of the stream on December 25th, 1806. In 1964, the State Historical Society of Colorado placed a marker a half-mile north of the stream's mouth, commemorating the encampment, which reads, in part, on Christmas Eve, 2 hunting parties shot 8 buffalo, and Christmas Day was spent near the mouth of Squaw Creek, feasting on buffalo and repairing equipment. Vasquez was born in St. Louis to a Spanish father and a Quebecois mother. The 1908 volume, A History of Missouri, reports that in 1823, he was employed as an interpreter among the Indians by Governor William Clark and acted as a sub-agent. Online genealogy sources report his death in 1828 with no details. Thoughts?
I guess I have concerns about that one, unless, well, I don't know, did you do public comment?
Yeah, we had public comment
Nobody.
on the previous, when we opened this up previously enclosed, it didn't have that. The other proposal was Silas Soul Creek, since he was the, in the comment there was that he was the only soldier to refuse to take part in the Sand Creek massacre and testified at the trials of the soldiers afterwards.
I guess I'm more inclined to I'm torn on this one because the proposals, Mount Shavano is about the Shawnees, and then we just used Tabawatch somewhere else. I like Silas Soul, and I think he did more than Mr. Vasquez. So I don't know, unless somebody really has some real failing, I would go with Silas Soul.
Is that a motion?
Absent anybody else saying anything, yes. I could be
Okay.
convinced somewhere else, but.
All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second or further discussion? I see Dr. Gonzalez, you came off mute first, and then I'll come to you, Director Barry.
I was just going to second that. I think from an educational standpoint, I think that that is a good choice.
Okay, Director Barry?
I'm sort of hesitant without knowing more. I do know the creek emanates from almost the peak of Mount Shavano.
Okay, so I've got to, let's go back to, unless we have any other further discussion about this, do we have a motion, or I'm sorry, a second on the motion for Silas Soul Creek?
Second, did I make the motion or did Representative Benavides make the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then I second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying same sign.
Aye.
Okay, I think I just had one there. Thank you, Director Barry. I will note that. Otherwise, the motion carries. All right, now, On to Squaw Mountain in Teller County. It's a summit. We had 2 public comment regarding this matter, and one fell on the USBGN, was already a proposal to the USBGN. That one was to rename it to Bristlecone Mountain. The proponent is Katie Blake. And then the other 2 was the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer said proposed Evening Star Mountain. And then the other one from an individual out of Adams County was Charlotte Mountain. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Beth.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, I appreciate the Pawnee suggestion. We've painstakingly gone through this process for a year and a half, and maybe Tim could explain that to the community.
Yes, okay, so, and board members, you've got this in front of you here. The proposal was submitted in response to a previous application to change the name to Sunnyside Mountain, which refers to the summit's proximity to Sunnyside Cemetery. The summit is almost entirely within Cripple Creek and Victor Mine, owned by the Newmont Mining Corporation. Much of the northern side of the summit has been removed by mining. The name Bristlecone Mountain was submitted by a representative of the mining company, who reports that its Women and Allies Business Resource Group conducted a vote in November 2021 and agreed to a name that refers to the tree that is common and loved in the area. The proposal Sunnyside Mountain has been withdrawn and supports the new proposal. And the name Squaw Mountain first appeared on USGS maps in 1894, may have been used earlier. According to the original proponent, local historians believe the name predates the hard rock mining area, noted that a Victor Historic Building Survey reported that it referred to a Native American corpse unearthed there by early prospectors. No other details about the statement could be found. Beth, did I characterize that correctly?
Well, we've had a couple updates since then, but yeah, you did.
Do you want to elaborate on the updates since then?
Well, it's painful, but so is our history in Colorado with our indigenous people and the settlers and mining and etc. I've been trying to. I finally found out why there's so much ire in the community about changing the name of the mountain. Everybody likes the name Bristlecone Mountain, so that's settled, okay? But and it's because of a poem from 1913 written by Annie Beatrice McGee, and she actually resides in the Victor Sunnyside Cemetery, and and we have a lot of generations of her family in the cemetery and still living ones in the area. But it's a poem very similar to kind of the romanticizing, or somebody that moved to the area that was trying to figure out why the mountain had that name. And she got some of the information accurate and some of it's not accurate. And I've tried to reach out, to the Ute, and they won't talk about it. The history in the area is very painful for the Ute. They were removed, and they were removed before hard rock mining in 1880 or 1880 is from what I understand. By I believe the U.S. Cavalry. I don't know who did it. Okay. So, we've got painful history. We've got a battle mountain right next to it. We had a Papoose Hill behind it that the mines removed Papoose Hill. So we're not going to talk about that. We have a historic SQ Gulch, which goes towards Cripple Creek, the creek. It used to be 2 miles long. The new mine, we're not talking about the hard rock mining, Newmont Mining and their predecessor Anglo Ashanti Gold, they removed almost 2 miles of the gulch. Now there is a half a mile of the gulch left. So we have got the mountain and the gulch, which you'll be talking about next. So, you know, I've reached out to the directors of the museums in the area. They've all been very unhelpful. But lately we have uncovered some history from the Victor Daily Record. So that was 1913, but it's a poem. And then from 1881, it was just discovered an article where some drunk cowboys named the mountain. So, and that would Jenny like to explain that story?
Ms. Runyon?
Well, you're kind of putting me on the spot there, Beth.
Sorry, but it is very uncomfortable for me to talk about it.
Yeah, there's lots of different stories about how this mountain might have gotten its name, but fact is, yes, it goes way back, at least early 20th, if not late 19th century. But the fact is, it is a name now. So the question is what to change it to.
Okay, thank you for that. Representative Benavides.
Again, I would defer to when any tribal nations come forward with the proposal. And so I would go with Evening Star Mountain and make that motion.
Okay. Let me, Mr. Benitez, did you come off mute?
Oh, I was just going to second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second there. Real quick, let me just close public comment if there's no further public comment. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on here, we have Squaw Gulch. This is also in Teller County. It is a valley. In parentheses, it says historical. I do not know what that means. Miss Runyon, do you?
Yeah, this is a little confusing. This is the one that Beth alluded to, that historically this gulch extended much further up the mountainside, and a good part of it has been taken over by the mining effort. But the bottom line is, I think BGN staff would argue that it's not completely historical. So if you could do us a favor and ignore that historical reference, there's still a good half mile or more remaining at the lower extent. And we do have actually we do have a proposal pending for that one. I'm not quite clear why it's not on the list, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, we have
on the list.
The BGN proposal's on the list. Oh, okay. I guess it dropped off my printout. Yes, I just ignore that historical if you would. We need to fix the database and certainly change the coordinates, but there's enough left there to be renamed.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Runyon. You kind of cut out there. I think you were wrapped up. Let me see if there's any. Okay, so regarding this real quick here, we received a handful of recommendations. Mays Gulch was submitted by Matt Reed, the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. We also had submitted was either Anaconda Gulch or McKinney Gulch. Grace Gulch was another, and then Mountain Gulch is the one on USBGN review list 446. I'm sorry, it says 444. And so it's there, we have that. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Ms. Hoover?
Well,
You went off mute there. Same comment, I imagine, as before there? You're on mute.
no, if we're going to defer to the Pawnee, I'll go with what they say.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board, to you, what are our thoughts? Councilwoman Joseph.
I don't have much to add except that I support deferring to the Pawnee Nation. Therefore, I would put a motion to adopt the name Maze Gulch.
Okay. Is there a second? We've got a
Second.
second by Representative Benavides. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now on to Squaw Creek in Fremont County. This is a stream. It did not receive any public comment. The federal candidate list includes Taylor Soda Spring, Soapy Hill, Wall Mountain, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Wall Mountain, and Cottonwood Ridge. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Board, to you.
Is WA, could I ask if WA is after a person, or does anybody know? W-A-U-G-H.
Would
I think that's a
anybody,
person.
I'm sorry, Representative Will, what
I
was
think
that?
that's a person. Yes.
I think that's a person.
Do we know anything about the person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, since there was no public comment, I would leave this one to the USBGN.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Got a second there by Councilwoman Joseph. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of deferring to the task force in USBGN, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. We are now on to West Squaw in Baca County. It is a valley. The only public comment we received was from Matt Taylor with the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, who recommends Pawnee Trail Canyon. Otherwise, we had submit from the Federal Task Force, Wisdom Tooth Cave Spring, Dripping Spring, Ute Canyon, and Devil's Elbow. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board, to you.
Question.
Yes, Representative Benavides.
We really have a feature named Wisdom Tooth? What is it?
It does not even say like whether it's Wisdom Tooth Creek or Wisdom Tooth Pass or anything like that. I am not sure. Miss Runyon, do you know by any chance?
It's classified in the database as an arch. So I have to wonder if it looks like a wisdom tooth. You know, like an arch, I guess. So it's probably descriptive.
Okay, it's an arch.
Actually, it was submitted to the board way back when by the Natural Arch and Bridge Society. So it's probably on their website. So if I had to guess, it's a descriptive name. They're very creative with their arch names.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like the name Dripping Spring. I just like that, so I make a motion, we call it Dripping Spring.
I would say that has precedent in there's dripping springs in Arkansas too, so it's out there.
Yeah.
I've got a
Especially
motion.
the drought we're in, I think it's perfect.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, we've got a second.
Thanks,
All right.
Rich.
Board
Could I ask
members?
could I ask
Yes.
a question before we vote on that motion?
Yes.
The last one was, it was the West and the East Squaw Canyon. And I know the Pawnees had proposed the Pawnee Trail Canyon for both, and we had approved it for one. And, you know, I don't know enough about the features themselves. And if you could name them the same thing, or do you have to have the East and West lead into it? I don't know. It's more of a question on the feature.
Representative Will.
You need East and West. You need East and West.
Okay. Then, okay. I'd move a substitute motion to propose the Pawnee proposal for, are we on the east now?
We are on the west right now.
We're on the west for west, a little different than they proposed to the West Pawnee Canyon or whatever they proposed. Yeah, Pawnee Trail Canyon.
Okay, we've got a substitute motion. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of West Pawnee Trail Canyon, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed signify same sign.
No.
We've got one noted, motion carries. All right, now on to East Squaw Canyon, also Baca County. It's a valley. Same deal here. We had the Pawnee Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer Matt Reed submit Pawnee Trail Canyon. Also submitted were Centennial Canyon and Cimarron Canyon. And so let me just start right there. Do we have any public comment regarding this? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board, to you. Representative Benavides.
Can I move the Pawnee's proposal of east, we're on east, right? Pawnee Trail Canyon.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign.
Since I didn't vote for West, I guess I won't vote for East.
All right, we'll note that. All right, now on to our last one here, which is Squaw Pass in Clear Creek County. We received a couple of submissions from the public. That includes from Clear Creek County, Wagon Wheel Pass. Ann Hayden, part-time resident, submitted Wagon Road Pass. And then we have Beaverbrook Pass or Dead Man Pass submit. And then one individual had a comment that the Utes had a name for this. Well, it says for the peak, but we're talking the pass here. A name for this peak long before the U.S. Forest Service named it Squaw Pass. We should go back to the original name. And then we had one for Tahoe Pass. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Board members, thoughts? Councilwoman Joseph.
I just have a question. What was the prior name, the Ute name? Do you know by any chance?
So I'm not certain that we knew that, because what I'm assuming that they're referring to is what we recently got done renaming as Squaw Mountain to Mount Mestehe, and that I don't know that there was an original name, so we just renamed that Mount Mestehe in this case. And so that would be, I think, in terms of this, that's the that's essentially the pass that this was covering. Councilwoman Joseph, do you have any other comment?
Well, I could put a proposal based on the comment that I read, and also both the Clear Creek County, and also it seems like it's people living in the area between the Wagon Wheel Pass and the Wagon Road Pass. I could propose we adopt Wagon Wheel Pass since it's coming from the county, even though they did not really provide much comment, but there's a further comment down on the one for Wagon Road Pass.
Okay.
Second. I second that.
Okay, we've got so that was a motion, Councilwoman Joseph?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Let me go to Director Barry, and then I see Representative Benavides has her hand up. Director Barry.
On the comment from, is it a resident of Clear Creek County or from Clear Creek County government? The Brian Bosshart?
Yeah, so that is the county manager for Clear Creek County.
Great, all right, thank you.
Representative Benavides.
I mean, I read the thing, and none of those really seem like a really great reason to name it Wagon Wheel. But because they did present it, could I, if it would be agreeable to the movers, that we propose that name unless a tribal nation brings forward a different name?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we're headed probably with our ultimate recommendation here. So I see actually in this case, Councilwoman Joseph, who made the motion, would support that. In this case, Representative Will, would you concur for the second?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I'm sorry, I might not have opened this up to the public here. Is there any public comment regarding this matter?
I just
Katie?
have a quick question. Yeah, I have a quick question. So with this motion here would be to, if someone from the tribes were to submit a proposal for this, that would likely take precedent over the others. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that is correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and the opposed, same sign. All right. The motion carries. Okay, we are now down. We're going to do a time check here. We're a little bit after. If we can hang in there for a little bit longer, we've got the original, the first geographic feature we started with that I want to go back to here really quick. And that is Squaw Mountain in, I'm sorry, Director Barry, did you have a hand up real quick?
I'm sorry, I just forgot to lower it.
Okay. So we're going to go back to Squaw Mountain in Routt County. Again, this is a summit. We did open and close public comment, but I would point your attention to some comments that Shannon made in the remarks there regarding this matter. And it says that regarding Squaw Mountain in Routt County, where the Shoshone woman and children sheltered, Mountain Man Jim Baker's first wife was a Shoshone woman known as Mary. Their daughter was Mary, also known as Little Traveler. Little Traveler might be a historic name. Jim Baker was married 3 times successfully to Shoshone wives. The Wikipedia is not very accurate regarding Baker. He ran a ferry near Denver, then settled in the Little Snake River Valley. Savory, Wyoming's Little Snake River Museum has an extensive exhibit on Jim Baker and his family. He's buried nearby. And then she says Mary Mountain, Shelter Mountain, Little Traveler Mountain. Board, what do we think regarding this matter? Representative Will.
Thanks, Tim. I do like Shelter Mountain. When we first talked about it, I thought that might, cover or shelter, something like that. But I also like Little Traveler.
Okay, any other thoughts, board members?
I think it just keeping with the history, maybe I think Shelter or Little Traveler kind of keeps with the local history there as well.
Representative Benavides.
I don't know the person that you read that from, and I saw the other comment about sheltering there. And I guess none of those are enough to me to name it if it was that. So I would propose this is another one where we leave to the USBGN and defer to any proposals they get from tribes.
Okay, any additional thoughts? I think that's a motion, Representative Benavides?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Or Representative Joseph, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Joseph, was that a question or comment? Oh, that's an aye. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion here. We have worked through all of those names. Board members, I will pull these recommendations together. I appreciate everybody's patience and also those that have joined us here today on a Sunday and have taken up a weekend afternoon. It really means a lot. Thank you. Let me now go to real quick. I want to finish this up. JD, I see your hand up. I'm going to save it for the public comment coming up here in just a second here. So board members, do we want to include then, as we characterize these, a recommendation that the board recognizes tribal input may be provided after the Colorado Geographic Naming Advisory Board's review. Compliant with the process includes tribal consultations. The Naming Advisory Board foremost supports and recommends any tribal input that may come in regards to these matters. And for those features where there is not tribal input, that we would recommend the following and then list our recommendations out. Does that sound okay? Thoughts about that? Councilwoman Joseph, so Representative Benavides?
No, I was going to say that sounds good to me.
Okay, Representative, Councilwoman Joseph, you want to make would you make that motion there?
Motion to approve the statement by Chair Mock.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. I'll give you that one, Director Redhorse. And any further discussion regarding that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay, very good. Now, we are currently scheduled for an upcoming meeting on April 21st in the evening. I know that the Capitol, the legislators are now into their late evenings. Do we want to push that meeting to, since we've held one here in April, do we want to push that to May? Or are there any thoughts? What are we thinking about the next meeting?
I think May would work for us because what day would it be in May?
So right now we are scheduled on, it would be May 19th in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m.
That
Yeah.
works good for me.
Yeah, me too.
May works better for me too.
All right, Dr. Gonzalez, you good with that?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yeah, I vote for May as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Benitez. Councilwoman Joseph shaking her head. Okay, so we will carry on with the May. We will be in touch about what that agenda looks like here on this. And so now, give me a second while I get caught up for a second. Okay. I do see a comment here regarding asking if will Mount Evans be on the May agenda. We're going to work on that. I've got some conversations to have. We're gonna also, I've got to go back and look. We've spent so much time, and my hat's off really to Johnny Abad, who wasn't able to join us. She had a family commitment that she identified last meeting today, but she was spectacular in pulling all of this information together. It was quite a process to arrange all of this. So we've got to kind of get caught up here with where we left off. And to the board, Mount Evans did clear the Clear Creek Board of County Commissioners in renaming that. You can go on their Facebook page if you like. They held 3 meetings over the course of that. There were it was 3 successive weeks. They originally started with 5 proposals and listened to those proposals that had questions. The next meeting was dedicated solely to public comment. And then the 3rd meeting was deliberation and a decision. And so that recommendation has cleared the way. We're going to examine that. I think if we take this on, probably a similar type of process. Most of our meetings kind of take 2 or 3 in terms of considering these. So we will be in touch, but if you'd like to go back and look at some of those presentations, please do so. You can just Google Clear Creek County Commissioners and it's on their Facebook page, and you can see how those meetings all went. Now with that, let me open this up to general public comment. JD, you had your hand up earlier.
Anda todos. Y vecinos todos, muchas gracias, tengas. I can't say this enough, you know, and I say it almost every time. This to me is very educational. And I cannot even express how welcome I feel here. Y todo, I mean, I just can't say it enough. So a todos, tienen un buen día, tengas. Muchas gracias también.
Great, thank you. We are always happy that you were able to participate, and it's good to see you. Thank you so much. Tim Swales, is that you?
Hey, yep, it's me. Yeah, I just wanted to echo those previous points and say, yeah, appreciate kind of getting rid of all these derogatory names. It's almost like a Superfund site, and you guys are removing the toxic place names from the landscape. So I think that's really great. And I would really kind of going forward, push the board to get the Mount Evans name on the docket so we could kind of, yeah, get into discussion about changing it to Mount Blue Sky, which I support. So thanks very much for your time. And yeah, thanks for the great discussions.
Great, thank you. And good to see you as always as well. And Katie, good afternoon here.
Hi, thank you all for taking the time to go through your list today. I know there's a lot of us in this community who really appreciate it. I also wanted to urge you to begin your Mount Evans discussion as soon as you're able. I think, you know, as we're learning today and renaming mountains with the derogatory term for Indigenous women, I think we're starting to learn how harmful the actions and the laws and all of the things that happened in Colorado were to the Indigenous people, and how there are still impacts. And renaming Mount Evans is bigger than replacing a name. It's going to be an educational opportunity to offer people an understanding of what happened here and how we can all move forward together. And so I would encourage you all to take that up as soon as you can. And then I will, quick question of when do you typically release your agendas prior to your meetings? Is there
Usually,
a timeline?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Katie, if you want to email me at tim.mauck, MAUCK at co.state.us, we'll put you on a list if you're not on there, or you can even go on and sign up off of our website. Just Google Colorado Department of Natural Resources. There is a page dedicated to the Colorado Geographic Naming Advisory Board. You can submit your name there and provide your contact information, and you will receive those updates on our board meetings. The agendas usually go out a few days before the meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. Representative Will.
Thank you. I just wanted to interject a little humor, but maybe next meeting I can name something Dripping Spring. So, I just like that.
You are on message. I'm sure you'll keep that in mind. All right.
I'm gonna.
All right. Thank you all. And board members, is there any more business or discussion before the board here? If not, we will, I think I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Get a motion in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. So good to see you all. It means a lot. I really appreciate you taking an afternoon here on the weekend. We will see everybody May 19th at 6 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.